we have nowadays. Elections is a destiny-making era. Elections in our country is not only picking one single person, it also means people getting energized for taking leaps toward conquering peaks of success and development. The atmosphere, the air of the vote should be one of fervent zeal and excitement. It should be replete with logic, friendship, and convergence and brotherhood. At the beginning, I would like to make some complaints about some unfair and let's call it cruel attitude and approaches and some great lies and sabotaging against the government. In the history after the Islamic Revolution, we never had this, be it in the term of one single government or in the course of an election. We never saw any heavy attack and wave of criticism launched against any government. I think the reason is the friends who decided to enter the stage, they thought maybe they could never compete with this government in any other constructive arena, especially in the field of extensive services of the government, which has been unprecedented. In any sector we enter in comparison to previous governments, of course, they have also rendered some valuable services, but the function of the government, the performance of this government has been tantamount to performance of several governments. On the international level, unfortunately, great successes of the people have been ignored. The services of the government were totally ignored. I wish they would, instead of launching this adverse propaganda and criticizing, they would put forward a plan. In the electoral campaign, unfortunately, the great people of Iran were insulted. So I regret this deeply. Why should we disappoint people with ourselves? Why should we be so infatuated with power? I personally I'm not keen on touching on such issues. 4 years I tolerated all this. I tolerated all the insults directed at me myself. I forgave it all. I still like to forgive all this. I've announced this several times, but I cannot allow people to be insulted and people's choice and actually people's understanding. This I cannot let go. People do not allow me to take it easy on this when they are being insulted, their dignity is being insulted. In my meetings with people in various cities and people from different walks of life, extensively, they come and ask me to go to their defense and defend their positions. The root of these misdemeanors and these lies, these deceptions, these should be publicized. I had already promised people to let them know what's happening, and I think today Mr. Mussawi is not sitting in front of me. It's not Mr. Mussawi alone. It's 3 consecutive governments in front of me, facing me. It's Mr. Mussawi, it's Mr. Hashemi, it's also Mr. Khatami. The 3 served in previous governments. Mr. Mussawi supported Mr. Khatami in the previous term, and also he also supported Mr. Hashemi, and Mr. Khatami also supported Mr. Hashemi. As a matter of fact, these people have always been joining forces together, and they have been attacking this government, criticizing this government, and trying to hurt this government. Of course, people know all about this, but the youth should also realize the fact that in the not standing and not competing one single candidate. It's a group of people with Mr. Hashemi as an axis and Mr. Khatami and Mr. Mussawi cooperating him, moving against me. The reason for this heavy pressure on me in the past 4 years, and also heavier pressure during the election days, during the electoral campaign, I think this comes down to one thing. In the past three governments, the administrative structures were formed, some managerial chains were formed, took shape, and they went awry. They distanced themselves from its values of the Islamic Revolution. I don't mean that no services were rendered, but gradually there was a current came into appearance. They acted as if they possessed the government and the revolution, and they manipulated, and they had an open hand in doing everything they wanted to do. In the previous election, they stood in front of me, but people defeated them. In the past 4 years, they tried to render this government unsuccessful and try to crush it. But with the blessing of God Almighty and with the support of the people, so far we have treaded a path. We're here now. In the previous election, from inside the country, from outside, my rival received backing and support. At the beginning of this very government, Mr. Hashemi sent a message to one of the kings of the Persian Gulf littoral states and told them not to be worried within 6 months that this government will collapse. And later on, some people went there and gave them explanations, and that story came to an end. Well, this clearly means planning, extensive planning against this government, whereas this government has been only serving people. And in the short period of 4 years, it has achieved great honors domestically and internationally. Of course, this is the job of the people themselves. You can see that people, their capacities are flourishing, and in different fronts, in science, in technology, in politics, especially in foreign policy. The people of Iran are being respected, among the most respected nations in the world, but all these are being ignored. And the greatest lies and insults in the 4 years, especially the last 3 months, have come our way. Of course, I like Mr. Mussawi, and I've always respected him. But what has been happening in the past 3 months, this is not justifiable for me. Mr. Mussawi, if we want to realize there are problems in this country, we do not have to necessarily have an actor in a bus and show that there is addiction. In the course of the trips you made across the country, you realize that there are problems across the country. Are these problems all created in the past 4 years? What about 24 years before that? Does it mean that there was a heaven and a utopia, and you delivered that to me, and your friends delivered that to me, and I turned it I turned it to hell, and nothing positive has been done? Recently, it's clear that we have employment. You just visited 4 or 5 provinces. I have seen the whole of the country. And if I'm going to talk about problems people have, I should spend all the time of this session to talk about those problems. Still, we'll be short of time. Have you just realized that we have problems? We have had no unemployment before, no addiction before, no problems at workshops and factories, no agricultural problems, no issues, industrial problems. Are all of them related to this government term? I wish you had offered a plan. One more sentence, I have one more statement. I was kidding somewhere. I said as a joke, I said, I'm lucky I'm also a candidate, or else the 3 other candidates, what would they have to tell people? And I should also add to this that during this electoral campaign, there is no competition between 4 people. There are 3 people against 1. Whatever they say, even the debate last night, it was not a debate at all. It was all against 1 person. I think this is illogical, it holds no water, and we should work on justice.